are two reasons for accepting to speak on this topic. The first one is the fact that people believe once you are a bilingual employee, they can just pick you at any time and they ask you to do the work. And sometimes they find it very challenging. We are in a university where they think we are there for two things. We teach French. All we do is teaching French. And then when they need you, they will not inform you about any meeting. Then suddenly they call you, Department of French, can you send somebody to interpret or to translate the documents? And so I think that this presentation would help some of you who are bilingual. It will happen certainly that they will get you and you have to play that role because you're an employee. The second reason being that when you were organizing this seminar, I approached some friends in corporate entities, companies, to sponsor us. And the first person I spoke to was frank to tell me that, you know what, the topic is no more relevant. The theme is not relevant because nowadays they have AI. All right, so at the end of my presentation, we can all answer that question. Let's see if what I will talk about can help someone translate, and then they don't need translators or interpreters. If translators and interpreters have lost relevance. Okay, so to define translation resources, they are simply various sources, tools, and materials that translators utilize to perform their tasks. And then we can include in that group language service providers who are also translation resources. And so the traditional translation resources that we know are dictionaries, glossaries, translation memory systems, and nowadays we have this artificial intelligence and the softwares and applications. I will not talk again about the importance of translation resources in globalized business. I think my colleague Dr. dealt with the issue. But when you come to it, you know, in terms of ensuring effective communication is the main goal, and making sure that clients communicate adequately, companies communicate adequately with other stakeholders. Then the relevance of workplace translation resources. He also dealt with the matter. The fact that we are in a world where businesses and then professional engagement require multilingual communication. And then the fact that we want to put in context, better context, communication, that's corporate communication. So people who are in-house translators know the organizational culture and they can translate adequately that information. And then cost efficiency. Well, the previous presenters didn't mention how much this is lucrative. I heard Mr. Senam said it's very lucrative. Well, it's lucrative, and companies know how much they pay. But for cost efficiency, if you have your own in-house translator in there, and then you invest in the training of that in-house translator, at the end of the day, you don't have to be paying so much to freelancers. And then we have consistency in branding, okay, because of the nature of the language that is used. We have also confidentiality issues that are confidentiality that is preserved, and then faster turnaround of urgent business documents. Then when we come to the categories of translation resources, the first that comes up is a bilingual employee. They are the most important assets of the company. Then they assist in translating internal communication because they understand cultural context and ensure that messages are accurately conveyed across language barriers. So we have the example of, let's say, an international organization that employs Spanish employees so that they can communicate effectively with their headquarters in Latin America. Then we have in-house translators. The in-house translators provide specialized service, like in areas like law, medicine, it's more about technical stuff. And so these in-house translators are trained to deliver translation on documents such as legal documents. And so the example is there. You don't want to have issues at the law court after dealing with documents such as this. And then we have subject matter experts who ensure that complex technical content is accurately translated, preserving the integrity of the information. So in this case, a pharmaceutical company collaborates with medical professionals who are proficient in multiple languages to translate clinical trial reports. So these are the categories. Then we come to the second category of resources, and they are the digital translation tools. So we have CAT, computer-assisted translation tools, online platforms, technology management systems, cloud-based translation services. And the third one is the reference materials. Even though we have these computer-assisted technologies, we still need some good dictionaries or some good guides or guidelines which can provide you in the organization specific formats or terminologies to adhere to. All right, next. So what's the role of AI in the workplace translation? So AI to allow real-time multilingual communication. So these days you have what you call ChatGPT. ChatGPT can do just anything. You need to understand how to instruct it, provide the prompts that will give you the accurate information. And I will say that all the software that you have out there, Trados and the rest, they are backed by AI. Most of them are integrating AI. So that gives you faster results. Next. So I try to list the 10 most used workplace translation tools. So in the first position came Deep, then SDL Trados, Google Translate, Microsoft Translator, MemoQ, WordFast, IATE, SmartCat, Lingui, and MCOD. Next. So it's important to know the strength of these tools and then the limitations of these tools. Okay, they are all available. Some are licensed application. You need to pay. The free one is also there, but the free one will limit you to some. It has its limits. But if you pay for the license one, you get everything. But when you come to the software, Deeper Translator, it is touted for its high linguistic accuracy. Okay, but it has limited language options. Try those. It's powerful. It has a powerful translation memory. That means that, well, it keeps some kind of what do you call it? Glossary, terminology, memory. Okay, but it's expensive. All right. So I think we'll make the presentation, the slides available to all the participants, so you can go and you read them next. Now, this morning, I think the keynote speaker talked about mistranslation. All the other colleagues also talked about mistranslation. And they can lead to miscommunication, legal issues, or reputational damage. I think Mr. Senna stressed that very well. That when you go in there, you disgrace yourself, that's the end of the road for you. All right. So imagine an employee who mistranslates. What can happen to you when it leads to serious issues for the company? There are instances where translation mistakes have notable consequences. I want to give you some of them. Move next. So the case of Willie Ramirez, 1980, who was admitted to Florida Hospital in Comatose State. His family described his condition as intoxicado, in Cuban Spanish implying poisoning, but was interpreted as intoxicated under the influence of drugs or alcohol. So that led to a delayed diagnosis. Okay, next. Pepsi slogan in China. Pepsi slogan, "Come alive with the Pepsi generation," was translated to Chinese people as "Pepsi, bring your ancestors back from the grave." And it caused some cultural insensitivity among the Chinese consumers. Next. Parker pen intended to advertise that their pens won't leak in your pockets and embarrass you. However, the Spanish translation mistakenly used a word to mean to impregnate, resulting in the message that their pens won't leak in your pocket and make you pregnant. Okay. So that led to serious embarrassment and ridicule. Next. Then Electrolux vacuum cleaners in the US. So the Swedish company Electrolux used the slogan, "Nothing sucks like an Electrolux," to promote its vacuum cleaners in the US. Unaware that sucks has a negative connotation in American slangs. So the slogan was mocked and led to a negative perception about American consumers, among American consumers. Yes, so how do we address this? I think that it's inevitable that you are called upon to do in-house translation at any point in time. But we must put in some safeguard to avoid miscommunications or mistranslations such as this. So the first one is to establish clear translation guidelines and policies. Develop an internal translation policy, okay, having a terminology style guideline and then a review and approval process. The fact that, yes, the person speaks French, there should be another person to review what has been done. Translation quality control measures. And then there are industry-specific translation standards in specialized field, like medical, legal, technical documents. So ISO 1700 for translation service. You refer to set guidelines when it comes to this specific field. Next. We can also utilize professional human translators and editors. Hire or train in-house translators. So we are bilingual, but we have to hire or we train people who are already bilingual or multilingual within our organizations, so that they must have the rudiments of the job. And with the organization culture, company culture, and the business objectives that they know already, they can prepare the business and do a better job. And where it becomes critical, we should not hesitate to involve subject matter experts. For example, yes, I think that Sinan talked about that, where you know very well that you are not well versed in law technologies, but there is someone who has specialized in that field and can translate, especially in our training program, where we are talking now of veering into national languages. I can bet you the challenge that we are going to have with our concept. But I know that, at least when I go to my village, I listen to the village FM, and they have the terms to talk about football. They have the terms to talk about economy. So they have managed to develop this kind of concepts in the local languages. So we must get them to help us when it comes to this specialized field. You call them subject matter experts. And we encourage peer review among bilingual employees. So another person will look on the work that has been done already. Implement a two-step translation process. Initial translation by a qualified translator, and then editing and proofreading by a second language expert. Next. And then we can leverage AI and CAT. And we should know that these tools are there to help us, but they cannot replace us. So as people think that, oh, just go into Google and type and it gives it to you. No. Well, they can lead to serious consequences. We can implement translation memory and technology management system, and we train employees on AI translation risk. So it's much important to talk about the risk involved so that employees are aware that this may lead to these consequences. So especially when it comes to, when it comes to misinterpretation, how to interpret idioms. And I go back again. Yes, so idioms, cultural references, and legal terminologies. Next. Adopt, implement a quality assurance. Sometimes, to the one who is translating using the CAT tools, the person thinks that everything is so perfect, but when you proofread, you would not even notice yourself that there are serious errors in it. One technique is to do what we call back translation method, where you translate back into the original language, and that can allow you to see some mistranslation problems. Next. And then how do we address cultural sensitivity and context in translation? We train translators on organizational culture and values. They must know the company's vision, mission, and brand identity. And they must also ensure culturally appropriate communication. Avoid direct translation that may be offensive in certain cultures. And so we come back to the issues of that colleagues have raised. If you don't know that this is offensive to the other audience, you will let it pass. So we need to be aware of all this. So adapt marketing materials, slogans, and official statements to align with local content. Then test translation with target audience. So that means that there are some people who have native knowledge of a language in the organization. So probably we can use them to test the translation, how they will receive it. And then if they are able to get it right, then it's okay. But we realize that they can identify problems with our translation. Next. Crisis management. My colleague Senam talked about that. When translators go wrong, they must quickly apologize and correct errors and inform those who have received the documents with the errors that they have identified an error and they are replacing it. So it happened to me recently. I was translating a death certificate. And then minutes, I think within an hour of submitting the document, I quickly retracted it because of a single word. Yeah, so we need to be doing that. Next. So in conclusion, I think now we can answer the question if human translators are no more useful. Okay, because the machine can do all for us. And we must know that AI to help us to improve the efficiency of our translation, human expertise. And organizations should therefore train bilingual employees to use translation tools effectively and invest more in technology and the training of their employees in professional translation. Thank you very much.
Do we have questions? There's one here. Okay. I see 2, 3.
You should know the strengths of the tools and how to use them. And then with regard to human beings, machines replacing human beings, that is, I don't think it's something that will ever happen. Because machines are controlled by human beings. And the quality of the data that you put in determines the output. So you need a human translator to go over whatever the machine does. And the machine has its own strengths when it comes to text type. Usually technical text like medical text, you can easily do it with manage with a machine, and it's sometimes a better translation than human beings. But human beings are on top of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a question?
Page 24, which says that il ne suffit pas d'être bilingue pour s'improviser traducteur, which means that the knowledge of languages can't make one a translator. I think translation takes conscious effort in working at it and becoming one. Secondly, I have a question that what is directed to Mr. Fusu. I haven't had the opportunity. He said in his keynote address that we shouldn't look very much at tradition literary or taboo. But according to Peter Newmark, his book entitled Textbook of Translation, P76, he uses tradition literary as the initial translation method, which according to him should be part of the translating method. Because every translator should have his translating theory. According to Peter Newmark, both and more should be part of one's translating theory. Because of equivalence, because he believes that there should be an equivalence of the source language into the target language. So as a translator, you should have mot-a-mot in your mind as part of your translating theory, so that anywhere the target language doesn't match with your mot-a-mot or what you have in mind, then you should be signaled of a translation program, which may probably need the application of oblique translation procedures like transposition and modulation, etc. So that's what I wanted to say.
Right, thank you very much. Please come to Professor Alfredina.
Into translation anyway. But when I saw the topic, workplace translation and resources, I was wondering what it was going to be. But after your summation, I realized that you were giving us the tools and other things. And I was thinking of a topic like, I got confused a bit because we were talking about workplace and at the same time in-house. I wanted to know whether workplace is the same thing as in-house translation, whether the two terms are the same or similar. Then I was thinking that we could have had a topic like workplace translation resources, challenges, and the way forward. Something like that. Because what you did, I saw that there were challenges, even with the resources that you have at our disposal. There were challenges, and then the way forward. So something like that would have given us a better insight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Professor Bichum.
Antoine, I enjoyed your presentation, and it responded to a lot of my expectations, particularly where to look for digital sources and how to use them. Now, you mentioned ChatGPT, no? And resources. So that's a Google thing, isn't it? What is it? Yeah, I know. So, but what I want to draw attention to is that, recently there's been the Chinese DeepSeek that, has been shown to be so much faster, much cheaper, and open. Now, I don't know whether, if you haven't been there, it's okay, but I don't know whether all the resources that you lined up under ChatGPT will be available under DeepSeek. But the launching of DeepSeek caused commotion on the stock exchange. Values fell. Yeah, so that's my first question. The second one is, I think, a comment. When you were talking about crisis management and how both Joe said it and you were repeating it, that it's important for the translator, if you make a mistake, to as quickly as possible correct that mistake. But of course, you can do this if you are merely translating. But if you are interpreting, then whatever you said is gone. No, it's gone.
on, they can't go back and say, I should have said this, but I said this, and so on. So these are my two questions.
Yeah, so I'll start with the last question, crisis management. I think given that Mr. Senator talked about it interpreting, that yes, you can go back and apologize that you used the wrong term or you misinterpreted. But just that he added that you can't do that too often because your credibility goes down. But in translation, since translation is a written act, you have the time to correct if you notice it early, and then but if it's wrong, well, clients also need to be informed quickly so that they don't use the product. So about ChatGPT and DeepSeek, I think they are all AI-powered services. They are applications, but they are competitors. ChatGPT is for Americans, DeepSeek is for Chinese. And DeepSeek innovated on what ChatGPT app offers. So, but they are not the AI tools I was talking about. They all depend on AI. AI simply is a program, pre-programmed computers with, robot with algorithm to give answers to persons, issues. And so now when you go to even Google Translator and then you go to Microsoft Windows, they've all integrated AI into their software for faster results. Yeah, so, but ChatGPT, DeepSeek, I know them. All you need is to upload the document you want to translate. And then you provide the prompts, what exactly you need. I need to translate for you, but if you are not careful, and you are not able to spot the errors in it, you think it's a perfect work. So we should be careful of them. Then Prof. Fredina Kupoli's question. Yes, I think we like the topic broad so that we try to be informative, especially to our participants here. They should know the tools. And so we didn't want to limit it to the challenges. It should be the positive things that you can get out of it. And then beware that this and this can happen. So that's why the topic is for a short. We left it for that. I think there's a question for Mr. Udangwa. In-house, yes, in-house and workplace. Yes, so in-house is a workplace type of practice. That means that, for example, you are working for an organization like Institute of Education, and the Institute of Education employs you to do translation because you are an employee of the house. So it's a workplace. Thank you. Please, I don't know, there was a question for you. Yes, about your keynote. Yes, about Motamu. But there is this order which recommended it as the first method of translation.
We demonstrated it. Like that's where and that's why you have to actually mix the strategies up. I would believe that the sense says, because that's a free translation. In what I will, in the sense you are bound. You can't go beyond the semantic field of the words that are put to constitute the text. But in the free translation still, you can navigate your way easily. And that's why we say we have to use words before we are not really it out. And I wanted to also say
happen within a second. When you realize that no, this was not the way.
But if you realize 10 minutes after.
No, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. You are not an executive, you are a child. You know, so you should be careful. You better leave it than coming back. Because in some instances, someone will raise the issue that you made this point and we had this. Will it be, you know, that's something going wrong? And then you have another opportunity to clean up the mess. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. House. And Dr. De-Souza, did I hear there's going to be a vehicle to convey everybody? Yes, so there's a bus to convey all of us to the clubhouse for lunch, and then we'll return. Thank you very much. We'll see you in the next hour.
Thank you.